All right, Mr.
Hello?
Mox. Yes, green
Hello?
lines.
Are we here? Are we here? Hello, hello?
Those are a good thing. I think we did it. I think we pulled it off. We didn't have any um, issues, technical issues this
Yes,
time.
that,
I think
that
we.
Windows, or rather YouTube live boot camp I sent you to seems
Right.
to have paid off.
How not to suck like a noob. Learn to play.
Well, they're L2P.
Right.
Hello, friends, victims. Hopefully some of our 300 subscribers. We've crossed
Yay.
a milestone, or maybe a mini milestone.
What's funny is like, yeah, there's people that are like, yeah, they don't even bat an eye. They're 158,000, 160,000.
Oh, they
Nobody.
do. They just don't want you to think they do, but
Yeah.
they're watching their numbers too. Like,
At some point, they begin to
know.
obscure the 1, the 2, the 3 that you win, and it all just
Yeah.
becomes thousands at a time. However, we are still celebrating every individual subscriber. Like we're growing slowly. That's fine. We crossed the 300 mark here with a recent Ashes brief, sir. It was Ashes that won us the.
Oh my god. Now, I would beg to differ that it was the crafting interview that got us the majority of those for Pantheon, and you cannot deny that.
Well,
sir.
hey, we need Steven to show up. We need the Ashes folks to represent. Let's see if we can pull that off sometime.
It's funny. I was looking at our analytics, and like that is like Mount Everest in comparison to everything else out there. Like on the graph, it goes. Woo,
yeah, everything's just been nosediving since, right? We're on the downslope.
Well, not nosediving, but everything else is just little blips. Like when we publish something, it blips, and it's funny. Everyone has the same, like kind of pattern. It when you publish it, it goes up, and then it goes boop 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 boop. It's like kind of like that.
Yeah,
like
there's a little bit of residual, as people.
Yeah, like a little spike here and there. Like as like the days pass and people sit down at their PC or open up their app or whatever, they see those two idiots are on there again,
right?
And they torture themselves. So yeah,
well,
but
I will say
you.
this. I mean, it does actually. The one thing you learn very fast is that frequent content is better than the odd huge piece here and there, right? Like,
yeah.
Frequent smaller stuff. Just throw something out there, which our briefs are largely doing. We're keeping things under 10 minutes. Finally, for the first time in our show's history,
totally enjoying those.
Yeah,
they're nice and easy to do. I don't have to listen to you prattle on about anything.
Totally. No, there's no verbosity anywhere throughout, right?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I'm enjoying our new format. And I'd say largely we have recovered from our like drop off we had from our extended break last year. So
yeah, there's a momentum. I think I'm
Yeah.
feeling it now. Just to bring folks in that are viewing this maybe later on or that have tuned in live and are now seeing it. We were just talking about, boy, we haven't done a talk show discussion in a minute, and I think that's what's largely like. We don't feel the pressure to have to do one because the briefs are now handling the news.
Right.
Right. And
then
we
are planning
these review videos.
Yeah, and the idea is that we're gonna like kind of get through the holidays and then pick up with those, and then we'll have a regular cadence of those episodes going forward in the coming coming months.
Absolutely, we're gonna try to commit, I think, to at least to have one discussion talk show episode, and we're allowed to get longer, I guess, if we want to. We'll probably just take it'll largely be like it was, but at least once per month. I think if we can do that, if there's enough to talk about for two, then we'll do two, right? But I think in amongst the there'll be the one or two of those. There'll be the briefs that are happening constantly. There are going to be the these that will happen here and there as well. So we'll have a lot of content coming your way, which I think is a good.
Yeah. Hey, Archangel, good to see you, man. And yes, dial me up once we go dark on this episode. Shouldn't be too long. We're only reviewing a 10-minute episode or video, so
expect an hour and a half.
Yeah, it should be under an hour, I hope.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, give me a buzz so we can talk about our upcoming dinner plans. Ooh, all dark and mysterious. We're having a little get-together here for the holidays with our friends, so.
Indeed. Okay.
All right, shall we get into this?
All right, let's do it. Yeah, we will. And let me find what button I'm supposed to push to change the scene. All right, so can we promo this and set this up?
Yeah. So our video is by Ritchie SH. and he is a content creator that's doing stuff in regards to Ashes of Creation, and he put out a video, the ultimate guide for everything you need to know about Alpha 2. So, and it's a great video. We'll say that up front.
It is. It's very encouraging. It's kind of like
Yeah.
an upbeat summary. Maybe it would actually really make a really good end of year look at what all has happened this year, because Ashes has had a history this year of just huge, kind of rollouts, and you can tell it's building toward that Alpha 2. The question is, are we there yet? Right? Is it too soon to say, hey, here's what all is going to be, or is it going to? Do we think if, let's say, Alpha 2 is at the end of 2023?
Right.
Do we
Should
think
you have done this now?
Right. I mean, how much
That's
more
the
would there be?
ultimate question.
Is there a part 2 that might come out? So all
Right.
of that,
Exactly. So, all right, let's get it started and see what's what.
With Alpha 2 spot
Excellent
testing right around the
production, by the
corner,
way.
many of us are
Right.
sitting on the edge of our seats waiting for when we can finally jump into the next stage of testing to finally get our feet back into the world of Vera and let that hype flow through us. We know as of October that spot testing is going to be starting up in the next few months, and once spot testing starts, Alpha 2 should not be too far behind.
All right. This is probably going to be my biggest complaint about the video. It's not going to be the next few months.
Moldy Mox has shown up again.
I know, man. Steven has said that spot testing will take place over the course of the next several months, and this was back in October. And I went back and rewatched the live stream today where he was talking about that. So the spot testing is going to be over several months, and then once that's done, then they can look into doing the Alpha 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that you should be sitting on the edge of your seat in December, or this was actually late November, waiting for this when realistically we're talking, late spring probably at best. Do you agree?
You're talking about an Alpha 2 date?
Yeah.
I find myself getting more and more hesitant to try to guess if that is fair, because I mean, they're rolling out so much good stuff, and they're really good to see.
Mm-hmm.
You want Alpha 2. It's a pre-beta kind of a thing, right? They want all Alpha 2 is really supposed to be as many systems as they can have, because you're deep dive testing all of those different systems, and it really at the beta now you're testing content, as you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
there's a lot, and he's going to go into what all is going to be here in Alpha 2. I think it's going to, my guess is that Alpha 2 is probably going to be end of 2023, if then.
Okay. So you're even
Give it some
further
time.
out than I think, and I'm thinking late spring, early summer. You're saying,
That's just my
autumn.
complete guess, but I think there's still a lot to do, right? We haven't seen tier 5 cities. We haven't seen 3 different classes. He's going to mention that, or 2 different classes. We haven't seen secondary classes. You know what I'm saying? We haven't seen naval combat. There's a lot in Ashes that are large systems that are very, very necessary that we haven't yet seen.
And that's all going to be part of that spot testing, I imagine. Like, you're going to have a focus testing weekend on naval combat. You'll have a focus testing weekend on,
Probably.
rolling out the next couple classes and things like that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I assume
think
the
so.
focus testing is going to be is testing these large, heavy PvP related type systems.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, but they're big enough, right? And there's enough development work required there to, unless they shock us over the next 2 or 3 months, and we see all of the naval combat, and we see to make me think that they're much further ahead than at least I'm assessing them to be. I think it's going to at least be the year.
I mean, they're probably going to take off at least 2 weeks for the holidays, right?
Yes. I mean,
so December's almost a wash.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, like,
So,
I think even spring is probably early, but we'll see.
all right.
Be too far behind. So prepare yourself for the inevitable with everything you need to know about Alpha 2. Alpha 2 will start out like every great MMORPG before it, with a character creator. We have seen what Intrepid has in store for us with this character creator, as early in the year we got our in-depth preview of the system. The character creator will let you choose from the 9 races in the game, allowing you to dive deep into the customization to get that Alpha 2
moving that wrinkle slider isn't the best show, I think, of
I
of
agree.
that feature. Right?
I'd rather see like the beard shorten and lengthen or something.
Right.
Something more visual.
Yeah, they had one. It was really cool. Like I've seen in the footage where they had a scar, right? And then you put the scar on the face or the chest, and then you make the scar larger, or you size it.
Right.
Up. And he's going to show in a moment here, some of the facial feature sizing that you can do, like the shape of the nose, the brow, the how with the eye placement, and I will say this for Ashes of Creation's character creator, even if it's in current state. Bugs, let's assume that if there's any bugs, they work those out. It will be already the best character creator I have ever seen in a game.
Yeah. It's on par with Black Desert On. It's probably even better than Black Desert Online, and that was the best prior to this. So
right.
I'm super jealous. I hope that Pantheon can do 70% of what they do here, and I'll be happy, extremely happy.
How about we have a comparison episode on character creators?
Well, we can't yet because we don't have one for Pantheon yet. So, but we will. Like once we do, we definitely will for 100% certainties, because this is the hallmark, the Cadillac of maybe Cadillac's probably dating me. It's probably more like this is the Tesla of the character creators.
Sure, yeah, the Tesla. Let's say that. Okay.
Character of your dream. This creator allows you to sculpt the faces, pull and drag to get the perfect size nose, and even combine presets to mix a combination of a couple presets you like if you want a quicker alternative.
Just
every
to kind of
single
go down
race
the rabbit
is said
hole.
to be in Alpha 2. Whether this means they are all...
You see the way that he's sizing these things around, right? Like this is, we probably owe our, because this during our hiatus was when this live stream happened, right? So it was in our missing months. We kind of owe, I think, at some point a deep dive on the character creator. I would love to actually look at it and actually do an episode on it. Maybe, who knows? If we get there, we will.
We can always do it live too. We could go grab that episode, that little bit, and do a live talk about it. That's that's easy enough. Like I don't think we'll see what we decide to do. But yes, we should cover that, because that was one of the bigger things that came out while we were on break last year.
Now, looking at it though, and the way he's moving things around, it just doesn't feel like it's intuitive to me. Like you move it here and the nose gets bigger, and then you move it down and then that part gets bigger, right? Like it doesn't seem like a slider.
You're gonna end up with some really ugly characters, but that's cool, because right now,
because most people are ugly.
All characters in MMOs are largely the same.
True. Yeah.
Don't
right
like
now,
the
a lot
eyes
of presets
in this view, though. The eyes look soulless. Like.
Well, let's see if he can make them
kill you at night.
Not look soulless. Okay, ongoing.
Available at the start, or they get added later on in the testing, is unknown, because Alpha 2 is planned to be persistent up through the betas, and it only makes sense for Intrepid to slowly roll out what they want tested to gain better feedback from this. So that means when the initial launch of Alpha 2 happens, you might not have all 9 races. The races at your disposal, though, will be the Mysterious Tolnar, the Dunir Dwarves, the Nikua Dwarves, the Empyrean Elves, the Pyre Elves, the Kalar Humans, the Valoon Humans, the Vek Orcs, and the Renkai Orcs. Each race giving you a new but familiar feel to those fantasy creatures that you've come to know and love. Each of the 8...
All right, he's moving fast through stuff, so I want to make sure that we're pausing and are properly visiting things, because he moves to the next topic very fast through this video, right? So he's mentioned 2 things already that we need to respond to. One of them is the nature of Alpha 2, that it is going to be a persistent alpha. Mox, you have an idea as to what that might be?
Well, to me, and from looking at the wiki again, I did some checking on this today. It's gonna be basically up and running from when it launches until the beta sessions. So until its conclusion, I guess, is the best way to put it. But I think they'll roll pretty much from Alpha 2 really quickly into they're gonna have 2 beta sessions, from what I understand as well.
Right.
And it'll be down for testing and not testing for updates,
updates,
and server restarts, and like probably weekly maintenance, all that sort of thing, normal MMO stuff. But things will be rolling in during this time. Like he mentioned, those races that we're going to have. There's a couple that are missing, so those will be added over the course of it. So
so persistent, right? I mean, the thing that comes to mind with me immediately is, okay, it's going to be turned on and left on.
Yeah.
until go live. And then really, when you dig into that wiki, when they've seen Steven speak in other sessions, the plan is for that alpha live server or server set to become the new PTR as we go in, right? So it's going to be the testing server, and that's great. Yeah, I'm expecting what you expect, where we're not going to have everything live there to play with on day one.
Yeah.
Certain systems will be activated or brought in for us to test. So it's going to be a journey, right? Alpha 2, is going to be a journey from the day it goes live until actually the launch of the game.
Right.
Whether they leave the servers on the whole time, or we see kind of like in Alpha 1 where it's live for this hour to this hour that day, and then it's turned off after that. But so what do we mean by persistent, right? Is it server lifetime, or is it the servers are on and we just bring it down to patch and then bring it back up, and then is that persistent, right?
Or is it, those are good questions. I'm thinking the former, that it's going to be on as much as possible.
Yeah, that's what I would like to see. Absolutely.
Yeah. There was something I had a thought about that, and I'll have to think about it again. Oh, welcome, Greg. What are the goals during Alpha 2 versus Alpha 1 versus Alpha 2 versus Beta? Okay, so with Alpha 2, their goal is going to be to... Like, Alpha 1 was pretty much a stress test. Am I right, Sechari?
Yeah, so Alpha 1, what you're looking at very much... In fact, this is what happens in Alpha, is really systems testing, right, is what you're looking at. And along with those, you're testing server load... you're testing the architecture,
throughput, all that stuff. Yeah,
like can the servers have 500 people concurrent? Can it support what? So that's a big thing that you're testing in alpha. That already needs to be solved by the time you get to beta, because at that point you're testing the content, right? So you want to make sure that the systems that they're bringing online, that the systems are working together. You're testing users using them in mass. That's kind of the nature of the testing. Obviously, the further you get along, though, the more there is an expectation of things are more polished and are closer to delivery, right? So things on Alpha 2 should be vastly improved, very much, more fleshed out than in Alpha 1.
Alpha 2 should have the majority of your systems in it and being tested. And then Beta should be final polishing of all those systems. Like, they should be almost locked in. We're tweaking here and there. Final polishing to your UI, things like that. But all the basics should be functional in your beta.
And there's another aspect of Alpha as one, is that they're also they're gathering data from users, right? Input from users as well, but putting users through things and seeing how they behave. Seeing how the numbers work out. Do we need to tune these things a little larger, that make them harder to kill? Do we need to players are chopping down trees so fast? Is the amount of lull time before that they spring up appropriate, right? Or do we need to make that a little faster? So there's a QA session where you're kind of subjecting a lot of what you've designed to real world challenge, and then you're just making it so that things are realistic and will work despite that real world, right? So,
and then probably the last thing to mention here, we also have mentioned focus testing, which is also a part of this process, where you come in, you bring in a group of players to test a specific thing for a time. I mentioned naval combat, so they're having they're bringing this whole idea of naval PvP, so they want to make sure that that's working, and so they'll bring in they'll invite maybe 300 people on to specifically work on that thing. Like, you can't just go off and start doing quests. You're there to test naval combat,
right?
So
I think at those times sometimes they allow people to go do that other stuff, but they want the majority of folks, if they can, to really push that system.
I mean, you're there for a purpose, ultimately, at least in theory. So, thank you for the question, Greg. We appreciate it.
All right, so that was Alpha 2. What was the other thing that he mentioned?
Alpha 2 versus Alpha 1, Alpha 2 versus Beta.
Yeah, and then there was going to be the races, right? So we've got both the dwarves.
He mentioned, I thought, not Greg, you meant Ritchie. Sorry.
Yeah, Ritchie.
So, Beta's final polish, Greg. That's everything is almost ready to go. We're working out the final kinks and getting ready to launch.
Yeah. Sorry, I needed to page back slightly, and then got reminded by the image. Right, the races are pretty far along, right? Like we have all of the dwarven races, at least, or okay, at least the plan will be all of the dwarven races, all of the human races, the elven races, and the orc races. That's 4.
And the Tolnar.
And the Tolnar, right?
Right.
I mean, that's pretty far along if you're thinking about the races. Okay, let me see where
I wish that Pantheon had the staff that Ashes had to be this far along. It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, let's start at this a really weird spot right here.
Each race giving you a new but familiar feel to those fantasy creatures that you've come to know and love. Each of the 8 class archetypes should be at your disposal as well in Alpha 2. This includes the 5 that we've seen so far, being the Mage, Cleric, Fighter, Tank, and Ranger, along with the Bard, Summoner, and Rogue that we have yet to see any real detail on. You will not get all 64 classes.
I think Bard is coming soon. They're speaking a lot about Bard. Even in the last live stream, they mentioned Bard a couple, 3 times. Yeah. I think that says that it's front of mind for them, and I would be very surprised if December, January, we don't see some Bard information. That's going to be a guess I'm going to make now, right?
You know what I'm noticing here, and something we haven't brought up in regard to their classes? I do not see crowd controlling or utility in here.
Yeah, I think they'll be mixed in, right? Like you'll see utility, like a tank may be able to stun. Or actually, we saw some of that in this last live stream where you had the tank / the ranger was able to do a whirlwind, which applied that stagger effect, and then the cleric would hit them with I forget the name of the deal, but that would put a stun on them, right? So there's going to be some combos and synergies and stuff. I think. Yeah,
but they don't have. I mean, unless some of these subclasses are crowd control centric. Yeah. I don't see anything that on its face is like the enchanter that's their job is crowd control.
I don't think you're going to get a utility. Like make the trinity is your tank, your DPS, and your healer. I think they're going to stick to that. There isn't really that utility class. All those utility functions are mixed in throughout. Yeah. So everyone will have what they can do. Yeah. I'll let you push play.
All right.
Class combinations though. There'll be a good amount of classes to try out, but far from all of them, but still enough to give you a good idea of what to expect.
I'd like to know what good amount means. I think that's a subjective, and some guesswork there.
Yeah, agreed.
But I think by the end we will see all 64.
Yeah.
Idea of what to expect from the hybrid class system. Combat-wise, we know we are getting more of the combination of tab and action combat that Intrepid is developing. We have seen the basic attacks for ranged and melee to give you a good idea of what you can expect with this combat, giving you a variety of tab and action abilities to play with on your journey to level 35. Once you create your character, it will be time to jump into the world. Before the massive map changes, it was said that roughly half of the map would be available for Alpha 2, but as the map has now nearly tripled in size, it's hard to tell if this is still the case. But when
by tripling in size, we've just created seas around them, right? So when they changed the map, they reoriented some things a little bit. They included some new islands, so there is some new piece, right? Land. But and then zoomed out a little bit and put some sea around it. So I think the majority of it actually, although there's many more square kilometers, the vast majority of it is actually sea. Right. Now that means that they're going to have some work to do because they're going to fill the sea with sea monsters, right? With undersea quests. I mean, there's going to be content that they have to put there. Right. But I don't think it's as huge, right? It was impactful maybe on the surface, given,
And the question will be, how much mystery will they be leaving for launch?
True. Yeah, because everything that they put in
you
Alpha
don't want to have the whole world
spoiled.
Available. Like having half is still a lot and might even be too much.
Yes. And I think I would be surprised if they don't have available for us in Alpha 2 is that whole western side. Right, so you got the Kayla Riverlands. We've seen those a lot. All of the recent stuff that they've done have been in those Kayla Riverlands, right? You have the Coffin Tower, that's in the Kayla Riverlands. He was running around on that beach, hitting the rock monsters. That was in the Kayla Riverlands, right?
Yeah.
Even recently, they were up in the alpine forest, and the way that he described it was, okay, we're up in altitude. If you look to your east, you'll see the Kayla Riverlands. So that makes me think, okay, you see where the river lands, ANDS there is over that lake. Probably up in those mountains is probably where I'm guessing is where they were, right?
Right.
So it's been centered there. So that's the stuff they've already spoiled. The stuff that we will be familiar with. I would be surprised if that's not what we see in Alpha 2, right? Because they don't want to show us the stuff that, they want to keep something for life. There's another thing I want to point out here as well, right? Obviously, we know the Kayla Riverlands. Then there's the Sand Squall Desert down to the southeast of that?
Southeast, yeah.
Okay. So there's a desert region. I want to draw our attention to that. And I want to draw attention across the ocean to the north there, the Frostgrave Fells.
Okay.
Okay. A mountainous, snowfally looking area. He's going to mention both of these in a moment, but I just want everybody to be aware when he mentions the desert or whatever, you kind of know in relation to the Kayla Riverlands where they are, right? So, okay.
Intrepid did drop the new map. They showed us names for a small selection of zones on the map, and it has been speculated that these zones are the ones we will see in Alpha 2. For gameplay of these named zones, we have seen a bunch of the Riverlands, although far from all of it with its massive landscape, a small portion of the Sand Squall Desert from a reveal trailer, and this snowy area in the Unreal Engine 5 reveal, which could potentially be part of the Frostgrave Fells, but there's no actual confirmation on this. When you set out to adventure on this world, you will be able to progress up to level 35
I love that
in
tree
Alpha
across
2
the
through
lake there.
quests,
Look at that.
events, dungeons, raids, and much more. The node systems of the map will be able to progress up to Stage 5, being the city stage, but potentially Intrepid will add the Metropolis at some point. These nodes will give you the majority of the content behind them as well. This includes freeholds, which are your own personal non-instance homestead that allow you to craft, gather, and even set up your own.
Did you get a house when you played the Alpha 1?
No. So in Alpha 1, the moment you get to a Tier 3 node, everybody you come running up to it, all the houses were owned. People picked them up, right? I don't know. Everybody's more sweaty than me. They make their gold much faster. And if the house was open, they would buy it, right? I was able to tinker a little bit with the apartment housing, the instance housing. That system wasn't live, so I couldn't get into it and look one over. You could go into a house and look around and see it, right? But I wasn't able to own it to make changes. I think it was still very early, and the plots of land, the freeholds, were not live. There was none of that.
Okay.
So.
Even set up your own tavern, although how much of this is actually available at the start of Alpha 2 is unknown. With this, there will also be player housing, which we saw a smaller version of in Alpha 1. There will also be caravans, allowing you to set up trade networks with other nodes. Caravans have various compartments that can be upgraded for storage, and you are even able to allow people to rent these compartments from you. But be careful, as they may require you to insure their goods in case the caravan doesn't safely make it to the next node. Within the world, we will be seeing the season system in all of its glory. The Riverlands will cycle through the basic seasons that we all have come to know and love: spring, summer, fall, and winter. But it is unknown what type of rotations, if any, we will see in the other zones.
True in the other zones. Let me just throw a note out about this. What I've been able to read recently on the season system is that roughly 2 weeks in real life corresponds to what a season is going to be. So let's start in summer. It'll be 2 weeks. You'll get fall for 2 weeks. You'll get winter for 2 weeks, right? So over the course of 2 months, you will cycle a year, right? So a year in game is roughly the duration of 2 months. Right now, what I believe is that if the day and night cycle lasts about 6 hours apiece, thereabouts. But they've mentioned before, I imagine in both, they will put users in and see how those go. Is this enough time? Are users getting stuff done? Both of them, and he will mention this in a moment, do have impacts on the populations of mobs that are available. They've mentioned before, like in the Gathering live stream we saw, where there was certain resources that are available in certain types of year, right? So if you're a gatherer, you've got to go out and make use of that 2 week window. That stuff is only available in the winter, for instance.
Don't go
because
on
if you don't. Right, exactly. That's going to impact your. It's going to be another 2 months away before you're able to actually go gather that stuff again, right?
Yeah. So if you're going to be away, you need to ask somebody to gather for you, or beg your significant other to let you log in.
All right, yeah, from the hotel Wi-Fi or whatever.
Oh, can you imagine? So bad.
And the day and night
Not
cycle,
all zones will have a full season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seasons in Ashes of Creation are world-changing, not only covering the ground in grass, snow, rain, and leaves, but also changing the creatures and the resources you see each season, along with unlocking or restricting access to certain areas as well, really adding a whole new dynamic to planning your adventures, your resource usage, and your caravans. Speaking of resource usage, the gathering system in Ashes of Creation got a big revamp as well that we will be seeing in Alpha 2. Every rock and tree you see in the world, you will be able to swing your axe at and knock down, collecting its resources, similar to New World. If you saw back in Alpha 1...
By the way, thank you to New World for setting that standard for these MMOs.
Right.
Because every one of them was here and there. You got a little marker on a tree that shows, hey, this is... even Ashes was planning that, right? This is a mineable resource, right? Or a gatherable resource. Yeah. And New World has largely, I think, challenged all MMOs in that respect.
It comes from other like a lot of the survival games have that every block of the world is breakable.
Yeah, Minecraft.
7 Days to Die is like that. Minecraft is like that. So the concept I think comes from those, but I'm glad that New World brought it into the MMO sphere.
So it's good though. This is an example of where the MMO genre does better. Because one of them began to try something out, borrowing a concept from a game genre that is not, right? So here we have it now. The MMOs are all better. Now it sets the standard. But it's something to keep in mind also when we start to talk about classically spirited MMOs. This is the journey things have gone through, right? Is that a good or a bad thing that, if we decide to go back before that, right? But we've had that conversation how many times, but just another piece.
Resources used to have more of a rarity to them, spawn-wise, so you would have to hunt down those choppable trees, but now they're everywhere. But this doesn't mean there won't be rare resources, as there will still be those who require a bit to hunt and find, and once you chop it down or mine it, it may not even spawn in the exact same spot again, keeping the hunt going. Gathering is tied into what Intrepid is calling the land management system, where players will need to be aware of the health of the lands they are gathering in, because stripping a land of all of it...
So I had a thought about this today. Can you wage eco-warfare against a node?
Yes, you can. Steven mentioned that you can.
Okay.
And he can't wait to see what we do with it. Yes, you can. So if you want to now, you got to be careful, right? You can go into another node with all of your people, and you can just mine the crap out of it. Now, any XP that node would get from you doing it, you're going to help them out. But you also destroy their land management system because you've taxed their and it is a legitimate form of warfare.
That's really cool. Like I like that. Like it brings a whole new aspect into this. Like
that's exactly right.
That's crazy.
Exactly right.
A land of all of its resources may slow down the growth, while taking out certain NPCs, rotating your freehold crops, and removing invasive plants may help speed it up. It won't just be gathering though. The other two artisan classes, being processing and crafting, will also be available in Alpha 2. It is said that these systems are meant to be fully online at some point during Alpha 2, which could really give us a full experience on how the...
Now, one thing we haven't seen as well, and it was a question I had during the crafting and gathering update that showed, or really not crafting and gathering, the gathering update. They show that you can survey to see the likelihood of something. Now, if you're surveying for iron, I'm willing to bet it's going to be fairly, you'll find it fairly frequently everywhere. Probably not even worth surveying. Just start hitting rocks, and you'll probably stumble across iron fairly frequently. If you're looking for gold, if you're looking for platinum, I'm not sure what else is out there, right? If you're looking for mithril, right, or certain kinds of ore, you're going to have to start to survey for it. Most likely in the places where you would expect it to be, up in the mountains, or right. But there are you have to go find where your survey says this is more abundant here. Go there. And then start to randomly hit rocks, and you have a greater chance of finding it, right? But that survey system wasn't showed.
Yeah, I'd love to see them like dip into the like real world stuff. Like, okay, you have iron, now you need to go find coal in order to make steel.
Right.
Like, you know, that sort of thing. Like I'd like to see that happen, but we'll see how detailed they're getting.
I am hoping that we will see a decent refining and crafting update before Alpha 2.
Yeah.
You know, that just shows here's how these systems work, because we don't have very much. I think you know, there's
crafting. Well, I mean, and I think you're right, because Steven came out with the list, like the definitive list, about 2 months ago, of all of the like which craft fell in which circle.
Right.
So yeah,
they slipped it in.
The artisan system is meant to play
they did.
When the launch finally comes. PvP-wise, we know the corruption system will be in play, as it was working in Alpha 1, and we can see it more reiterated on in Alpha 2. Meaning that open-world PvP gang festing won't be a thing. You will have to abide by the rules or get corrupted and lose some gear drop. I'm sure this will be pretty in-depth testing with the corruption system for Intrepid to nail down, as there has been a lot of players giving their opinions on it, and a lot of feedback towards this recently, along with a lot of misinformation. We will also have actual sieges in the real sense. There should be castles in the Alpha 2 world that will be siegeable, and not in the instant state that we got in Alpha 1, which means that Intrepid's gonna really be able to test their servers with everything going on in the world on top of sieges. There are also many other PvP oriented things in Ashes of Creation that we have yet to hear if they're going to be in Alpha 2, such as PvP arenas. PvP is a huge part of Ashes of Creation, so I'm willing to bet there will be a lot of focus testing around these PvP aspects, especially when these sieges can be server changing, and Intrepid will want these things to function right, because they have the massive potential to really change up how a server is playing out. Naval content is
You ran a company in New World and planned like what was it, 30 on 30?
It was 50 on 50, yes.
50 on 50. Okay. So it's my mind being wrapped around this whole idea of these sieges. It just it boggles my mind, like how the planning that's going to have to go, because there's going to be phases and objectives and getting people to the right place at the right time.
I don't know that it is that way, right? I think you opt in and nobody can say yes or no to you, right? So in New World they will say, hey, I would like to be in this. And then whoever is in charge of making the list does, and then you use those resources to fight the fight, right? I think what happens is whoever signs up is whoever signs up, right? So
I get that part. But I'm talking about, like, there's like going to be like raid objectives within a siege, right?
Yeah. Well, coordinating it, yeah, totally.
So that's the type of thing. Like, all right, we need to capture this tower, or we need to take down these defenses so that our people can land. Like, especially the ocean-based one. They said there's going to be ones that have naval type objectives at the start. So you have to break down their defenses before you can invade. Like,
I think it's going to be a mess. I think it's going to be just players everywhere. Everyone's duking it out. Somebody's going to get the idea.
But the successful ones will be the ones that run it like you did.
Yeah, that run it. Yeah.
Like a war.
Yeah. Now, how do you get all of these people? How do you do that? I don't know that there is going to be a way. Maybe somebody will set up a Discord server, right? And everybody can show up, but you'll have people showing up in your Discord to report what you're doing to the other side. You know, but maybe that's largely
is there
what Steven is hoping for.
Voice?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
At least not to my knowledge, is what I'll say.
I guess that would lead to a lot of griefing and taunting and
absolutely, yeah. People will show up to shut stuff down, and it's not like I think New World is very well organized. There is you can have that kind of fight in New World where you get it coordinated. You know, even though I've noticed that the tendencies, even like if you try to coordinate it's the atrophy into hammer bashing, right? That really you can't do it even if you want.
It all depends on how many of your people you have in that war.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And now compare that to this, where you just got anybody who happens to show up, people who want to defend the node. You may end up going in with people who want to defend the node, but you have an unpopular node, and everybody, the vast majority of the server wants another node to level, and you've got a veritable Thermopylae on your hands, where you're how are you going to stop 1 million people? Well, chances are you're not, and they're going to destroy the node, and it just is what it is, and that's what the server wants, right? But to be a Spartan there and do that will become legendary, right? So it's going to be one of those battles everybody remembers. So
content is expected to be a huge part of Alpha 2 as well, allowing players to set out on ships to embark on the ocean, which is now 750 square kilometers of the map,
this in
which
Alpha
is
1,
more than half
right?
of it. Out here, you'll be able to fight other players at your own free will, as no corruption system is in play. But if you're not the PvP type, there are also naval raid bosses that you can take on. I imagine Intrepid
Like, I mean, I'm like amazed at where he is right now. I swam a little bit, but I did not go looking for undersea caverns. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I hate that I didn't. I would have loved to have been there and looked at it. And it looks like he ran out of breath and they didn't show us what happened. He put this sea monster over the top, but it looks like he wasn't getting hurt. So
I don't blame him, but to that end, the water just is like, it looks really good. Like, the murkiness, the lighting effects are all. I hope that Pantheon dials it in, and we don't get what we saw in the well pond.
Yeah. I mean, and they will. You know that they're going to shoot for that. But this is a great example of that. Those, of that art looking good, like it should. Yeah.
Will be looking extensively into the feedback on the system in the game, as they have yet to show us any gameplay on it, and it's going to be a huge part of the world. There will be 3 classes of ships in Alpha 2 for the players to embark on as well.
Those
there
being
you go. Personal vessels, which are meant for 1 to 3 players, frigates, which are group content
Just
for 8 players, and galleons, which are used for 40-man raid content. We should also probably expect some deep-sea fishing in place as well, since the artisan system will be fully online, and that is part of the artisan system. If you are unsure of whether or not you can jump into the alpha testing, here on the screen are the most updated minimum and recommended PC specs.
This is helpful. I'm glad
Intrepid
that he
stated that the minimum did.
Yeah.
That's good.
So Windows 10, it's to be expected. i3, that's not like super new technology.
Well,
so that's
I think you're looking at the minimum specs, right? The recommended are down there at the bottom.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, recommended are always close to
recommended. Yeah.
So, do you need to upgrade?
I think I'm using a 3.7 gigahertz processor, so possibly. Okay. I'm well over that. It's 1060 for sure. 16, that's about what I'm doing. I have the 50. Yeah, I think largely processor is probably the only challenge I see here, but I think everything else.
I would say if you can do it, like if you can go up from 16 to 32, it might be worth it.
Yeah. You probably so, yeah, for sure.
Minimum did not change with the transition to Unreal 5, so these should still be fairly accurate for you if you choose to build a new PC to play this game. Although, personally, I'd recommend blowing these specs out of the water and just making sure you don't need to upgrade for a long time. Now, after all of this information, you may have decided that you want to play Ashes of Creation's Alpha 2, but don't know how to get started. Well, you can head over to ashesofcreation.com or click the referral link in the...
I'll say this. I think that 50 gigs is going to go up. I don't expect that to be what it is. I mean, right now they're taking a shot, given how the size of their client. There's more and more and more that they're building that's going to go into that client. 50 gigs is not going to be what it is. I'd say 100 for sure. Like just bank on that, and we'll see what happens. So.
The description below, where you can make an account and head to the shop to gain your Alpha 2 access. There are a few different packages granting various cosmetics and testing access, but the one you need for Alpha 2 at the minimum is the Voyager pack, which is $250. If you don't want to spend that, well, don't. Nothing is forcing you to. There is plenty of content out there for you to watch, and there will be even more when Alpha 2 launches. And Steven has said time and time again, do not buy these packs if you aren't here to test the game. Intrepid needs testers. This is not going to be a final fleshed out product. So if that's what you're looking for, then just wait. Wait until the game finally launches, because at launch, there will be no box cost on the game, just your monthly $15 subscription. This is just a taste of what Alpha 2 has in store for us, so be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the Ashes of Creation updates as we continue our journey closer and closer to Alpha 2 and beyond. If you're new to Ashes of Creation or are just deciding now that you want to play it, feel free to use my referral link in the description below to make an account where you can jump in on the forums, buy Alpha and Beta cosmetic packs, or just hang out until the time finally comes for you to jump into the world of Vera. Otherwise, be sure to click that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, turn on the bell for notifications, and stay tuned for a lot more to come.
All right.
Are we largely done here?
What's that?
We done with the video for the most part?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, okay. I think we're done. I think it was a great video. I think there's a lot of good information there. There's a little supposition, which is okay. Like, you're not going to be...
what we do, right?
We're far from perfect. So, but at least I think we try to say we're guessing at this, or this is our thoughts. I think he stated a few things that were that were like more like fact versus his opinion. I think I will probably pull the trigger on the like when they announce it, like I'll probably join in. Just because I really don't have anything else right now that I am like super like into.
Yeah, you're talking about Alpha 2. Jump in on that. Yeah. And I think it'd be fun to test with you. You're going to go through and you know, I think there'll be more. I think I'll say after having been in Alpha 1, it would be worth not having done that. Right? I mean, I still think I would support the project like I had, you know, but there wasn't enough content really to make getting to that level 15 or 16 worth doing. So you would do whatever buggy quest you could possibly find to do. Then once they bugged out and there wasn't anything else to do, you were just farming, you know. And then there wasn't really anything else to do after that, right? It just wasn't worth. You could have
tried another character, another class to get a feel for it. Like that, that is an option.
Yeah, but I already had in previous or spot testing, right? So it was not. I don't think Alpha 1. At least from the content somebody wanting to dip a toe in the content waters was not worth it. But you were testing, right? You weren't there for yourself. Right. You were there to benefit the process by reporting. You know, there was a lot of rubber banding and a lot of things as well that made it tough to do. So, Nagasaki, glad to have you with us. I'm glad you spoke up in chat too. Good to have you here. Thank you. Mox and I both want to say thank you for deciding to be a patron for us. We have 2 now. You and Ernest. So thank you both. We very much appreciate you.
Yes, we appreciate it. And as things roll on, we will be rolling out some bonuses and perks for our Patreons. That's
right now it's a bit of a mess. We admit. I don't think we spun it up. I put the most recent episode when we spun it up out there, and have not posted to it since. So I'll probably go back and find the last 3 or 4 or 5 things that we've done and actually get some momentum going on there. Our website is also in terrible disrepair, but don't go look at it. Even though we're going to ask you to.
Don't go to DesperateWorlds.com. I keep trying to convince him to just like dismantle it, but he insists.
Yeah, so we'll figure it out. So,
does that wrap us up?
I think it does. I also want to say as well, Greg, we want to say welcome to the community to you as well. So that you jumped in on Discord. It's good to have you there. The Discord, sometimes things fire up and we're having a great time and there's some chatter and then it goes quiet for a minute, right, until somebody else says something. Right. So we would love, if you got something to say or a question to ask or anything like that, jump in. We would love to have the Discord community be live and a lot of discussion. I think it's picking up steam as we go, but the more people, the more lively I think it will be. So definitely want to encourage everyone to join the discussion there.
Absolutely. Okay. Don't forget to check us out on all of our socials. They are linked in the description. And I think that's going to wrap up.
I think it will wrap up. Okay, so I have a line I usually try to say that I keep forgetting that I won't, so I will not even try it. Usually it's written down.
Fair enough.
So, something about don't be a jerk.
About principles. And it always makes me think of high school, so it just, it sends a shiver down my spine, so.
Yes. Okay, well,
all right, guys.
Yeah, okay, we're good. Nagasaki, your question, jump in on our Discord and ask us there, and we'll continue the discussion there. I think that's the way to go. Okay?
Yeah, it's that's under NDA. That's all I can say.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Love that you were here. Take care of yourselves, and we will catch you the next time we do something. Goodbye for now.